straw man of what your procedures would be.
And there was a study, I recall, in the early 90s, the Fisher-Price study.
I heard that.
That they probably even conceived
Of a straw man of what your procedures would be.
Well, its station was a very good test bed.
This was the day we really got underway. Colonel Kerkering, commanding officer of the United States Army Polar Research and Development Center, was with me when we made the final reconnaissance. We needed a flat surface on the same level.
You know, it's hard. I mean, assembling things in the vacuum of space is hard.
We finally picked this plateau, a smooth white plain of ice for as far as you could see, a level with less than 1 degree of slope. This would minimize construction problems by enabling us to keep all of our tunnels on the same level.
I heard that.
Station assembly and the wall of EVA taught many lessons to NASA. But even as this work was underway, a new set of tasks had to be addressed by the EVA office. How to maintain the space station.
Well, its station was a very good test bed because in the shuttle era, you know, shuttle flights were relatively short, you know, 7, 10, 14 days. And so if something went wrong, you always had the option to come home, and then you always had the option that, well, we'll just wait and fix that when the shuttle comes back and lands. Well, I.S.S. doesn't land, and so things, if something breaks, you need to fix it up there in space. And so the EVA role, again, it becomes much more important.
Some of the hardware that's just being launched is just starting its life, where some of it's already been 12 years on orbit and is now getting to that critical juncture where, you know, from a certification standpoint, it might be at the end of the life.
Some of the hardware on the station is critical enough that should it fail, the station would have to be abandoned. To avoid this scenario, NASA identified critical contingency EVAs, spacewalks which could be conducted in short order to fix any failed hardware. Any crew, at any time, would have to be prepared to conduct these emergency EVAs.
What we did was we went through step by step each of those failures and kind of came up with a little packet of a straw man of what your procedures would be, of a straw man of what your procedures would be, or what your tools were going to be. And by going through that process, we had a situation where one of those items did fail, and we were able to quickly get out the door and go ahead and successfully take care of that problem.
And so EVA becomes an integral part of station operations and station maintenance and repair. And then going to our further exploration destinations, it's even more important, you know, because we're going to Mars. Again, EVA is going to have to play a role in that because the ship on its halfway to Mars can't come home for repairs. You know, we're going to have to keep it going and do what we can while it's out there in space.
To conduct maintenance EVAs on the station, one assumes the astronauts have a perfectly working spacesuit. A new challenge to overcome in an era of long-term exploration: how to fix a spacesuit in space.
The guys are all suited up. We had a little leak problem with Steve's suit. It ended up being traced to an O-ring on one of the lithium hydroxide canisters we used to scrub the CO2. And,
FR's not really
that is our smoking gun for a leaky suit.
Hopefully that'll get out of the way too.
I can tell you something that really fascinates me is just when we do have a failure of any kind on the EMU, it's kind of like watching a piece of food drop to the ground at a picnic and the ants go get it. You know, that's sort of what happens when we have a failure of something like the EMU, because that's the crew's lifeline. That's what keeps them. It's really our little mini spacecraft, and so that's one of the most important things that we have in EVA. And so when something does go wrong, you see this team come together like those ants and just immediately start working the problem.
You know, every failure is an opportunity, and sometimes you're forced by necessity to do things that you never thought that you would do.
We had a situation where shortly after the Columbia accident, and we then weren't able to launch anything, we had one of our suits go down. Okay, how are we going to go address this failure? We can't just bring it down now and launch up another one.
The EVA office confronted a first. The only way to have the suit fixed was for the expedition crew to crack open the suit and do the repairs themselves. In orbit, in microgravity, with only the tools already on board.
Because we were going to have to do some things with the EMU that weren't really designed to be done on orbit.
Did I hear that?
We needed a flat surface.
That weren't really designed to be done on orbit. They were designed to be done in a lab by technicians, and we were going to have to take pieces out of the EMU that weren't really designed to be taken out.
But yeah, but when we built this thing in '79,
The Fisher-Price study.
never would have thought of having a crew member break it open and attempt to fix it. That was just not something that they probably even conceived of.
The crew, and by having them watch
The International Space Station. Space Station. And there was a study, I recall, in the early 90s, the Fisher-Price study.
Our report has indicated that the requirements are significant, but we believe not insurmountable. In the final portion of our report, we have listed a series of recommendations that can be implemented to decrease the total requirements for space station maintenance, encourage the use of multiple systems, such as suited astronauts.
We were heading into this era where we were going to go off and do a significant amount of EVAs to go and build the space station, and the number of EVAs kept growing dramatically.
It was, I guess what I'd say, alarming. And so I think we began to understand that we needed to focus on it.
You know, it's hard. I mean, assembling things in the vacuum of space is hard.
And there was a study, I recall, in the early 90s, the Fisher-Price
I heard that.
study.
An astronaut. Moving clear for liftoff.